Ah, hello. My name is Sir Fortunato, and today we're going to be talking about knighthood. Specifically, the idea of the wandering knight, a literary character that originated—
Oh, knighthood, how splendid! Who doesn't like knights?
Riding on horses and getting in fights.
Oh, Lord.
Impossible quests, chivalric romances.
Big shiny armor and long pointy lances. Nope, stop that. I am a knight. You are rhyming fairy shapeshifters. This time the video is my expertise. May we continue without further interruption?
You know all the facts, but what of the fiction? Are real knights the same as literary depiction?
There's all sorts of details well worth imparting. You handle St. George, we'll do R.R. Martin. We can talk Don Quixote while you talk El Cid. You deal with Crusaders, we'll deal with this kid.
Let's make sure we're thorough. Let's get microscopic.
And the Knight of the Seven, can't miss that trending topic.
Fine, but no spoilers for Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. And do you really need to continue doing these Dr. Seuss rhymes?
Excuse me, that's really not fair. This rhyme scheme is ancient, if you weren't aware. Anapestic tetrameter isn't just him. What about Clement Moore, Edward Lear, Eminem? The Night Before Christmas, The Fiddler's Green, and much of the work of Shel Silverstein. And trust us, this rhyme scheme's far older than that.
I still say it's derivative.
You're a cat in a hat.
Touché. As I was saying, real-life knights from medieval Europe were noblemen who served as mounted warriors. They were typically granted lands in exchange for their military service. However, some knightly orders were pledged to a religious cause, such as the Knights Templar or the Order of the Holy Sepulchre.
But there is another who shows up in story, a knight who falls into a third category, the wandering knight, or sometimes the knight errant.
Like Lancelot, Galahad, Bors, or Sir Geraint.
That's not how you pronounce his name.
Shush.
Mythic heroes, not bound to an organization. They go where they're needed, whatever location. They wander the land from castle to keep. Game of Thrones calls them hedge knights, because that's where they sleep.
Martin based it on Irish historical logs of hedge doctors, hedge lawyers, hedge priests, or hedge hogs.
What Martin's hedge knights are more like Ronin from Japan, masterless roamers taking work where they can. But in stories medieval and subsequent fables, errant knights uphold chivalry wherever they're able.
Chivalry was a knight's code of ideals that saw them through quests and through deadly ordeals.
We've all heard of chivalry. It's a modern word too, but did it mean the same thing?
Okay, Cat, back to you.
Well, chivalry wasn't really a code with standardized rules. It was just shorthand for, this is the way a knight should act. Sort of like what artistry is to an artist, chivalry was to a chevalier, that's French for knight. That's why over the centuries, the knight's paradigm of what actions were knightly evolved over time. Things like help those in need, don't back down from a fight, and much weirder rules you'd observe as a knight.
In one story, Lancelot faces disgrace when rumors abound and he starts to lose face.
Not because he's unfaithful or not pure of heart, but just because he once rode in the back of a cart.
Lance's horses were dead in that particular story, but to a horse-mounted fighter, that's a stain on your glory.
Like a peak NASCAR driver, if we might compare, riding middle back seat in a toddler's chair.
Different expectations of knightly behavior are found throughout the Middle Ages, but some common ones include:
be good in a battle, be good in a fight. That's the #1 standard for being a knight.
Don't harm any women, stay true to your vows, don't hurt any priests, and don't steal any cows.
Don't act like a coward, don't set things on fire, don't rob, kill, or kidnap, and train well your squire. I know, it seems like we're getting off track, but the process of squiring is central to tales of wandering knights, especially the plot of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. As such, we should probably cover it briefly.
When a boy of nobility got to the age between 4 and 7, they were trained as a page. A page learned courtesy, took poetry courses. He used practice weapons and learned about horses.
When he got to 14, they made him a squire to learn all the skills that a knight might require. He practiced at fighting and learned all things knightly. He saddled the horses, made the armor shine brightly.
He rode nearby in battle in case his knight master should fall or be wounded or some other disaster. He set up the knight's camp and he polished their steel until the time came for the squire to kneel.
He was dubbed as a knight after decades of prep in a formal ceremony known as the dubstep. Boo! The squire also needed to be able to financially support himself as a knight. According to a French codex from the 1400s, when a squire has travelled much and been part of feats, if he has enough to provide for himself, or if he is part of a great and wealthy house, he must advise his commander or a valiant knight at the beginning of a battle and request to be dubbed in the name of God and St. George. The latter must then draw out his sword and say, "I elevate you to knighthood in the name of God and St. George, so that you would loyally defend the faith, fight honourable causes, and protect the church, women, widows, and orphans." Now, in folklore, a newly made knight would prepare to go off on adventure, though they knew not where.
And thus errant knights would ride off on their quest to uphold the ideals of their chivalric best, wandering the land, righting evils and harms, in shining plate mail and bright coats of arms.
Sidebar: real knights actually did wear colourful, ostentatious clothing and armour, for a few reasons. First, there were a series of laws called sumptuary laws, which prevented peasants from wearing clothes that looked noble. That's as if we passed a law today saying if your house isn't nice enough, you can't wear a tie. But for that reason, actual nobles, like knights, wore the finest clothing they could afford, to make certain people knew that they were nobility. Second, in a battle, if a knight was taken prisoner, their enemy might ransom them back to their families for a healthy sum of cash. So a ridiculously intricate coat of arms was a way to say, "I have money, maybe don't kill me."
Okay, enough history, back to the rhymes. Errant knights were hot stuff during medieval times.
These knights donned their armor and mounted their steeds, going off on their quests, doing good knightly deeds.
In some tales, Lancelot, he only stays in Camelot for a total of maybe 2 days.
The Lady of the Lake, a sorceress fae, tells Lance to get knighted and go quest the next day.
And it's not only Frankish and Old English tales. Errant knights are in stories from Denmark and Wales.
Gottfried von Strasbourg, that Deutsche virtuoso, and the Italian epic Orlando Furioso.
And let's not forget Spain. You see, some real-life wandering knights didn't do it by choice. One of the greatest medieval knights was Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, who was a Spanish knight in service to the king. Despite great victories against the Moorish kingdoms in Spain, he fell out of the king's favour and was sent off into exile. There he entered the service of his old enemies, the Moors, leading the Muslim kingdom of Zaragoza to victory over multiple invading Christian enemies and Moorish rivals. They called him the Sayyid, a term of leadership he kept as he formed a united Christian and Arab army, and today he is remembered as El Cid. The biographical poem of his life, The Song of My Cid, is a national epic of Spain.
Now, going off questing can show you're first rate, but more modern knights errant don't turn out so great.
The trope of the wandering knight moved on, from El Cid and Sir Tristan to Cervantes and Don Quixote, who in his more recent depictions is shown as a dreamer with knightly convictions.
One who wants to do right, toward glory he strives.
But in the book, he's just crazy and ruins people's lives. Cervantes lampooned the chivalric romances, with his knight causing chaos in all circumstances.
He reads all the stories we spoke of above, about knightly honor and courteous love. He rides town to town like a wandering curse, finding all situations and making them worse. He beats up some sorceress wizards he finds, who are actually priests frightened out of their minds.
Which brings us to Dunk from the Game of Thrones world, whose stories have not yet quite fully unfurled. Sir Duncan the Tall is a knight from the street. He was born as a peasant, no noble elite, but when he is knighted, he goes to a tourney to win money to fund his errant knight's journey.
Now, Duncan has honor. He keeps to his vows, more than most knights in that world, even lordly highbrows. But he isn't naive. He knows how the world works. He's dealt with his fair share of bullies and jerks.
So will things go well for Sir Duncan the Tall? His story's not finished, so it's anyone's call. In a world that established within its first plot, that noble ideals get a character got, a world where the good guys don't always win. Let's ignore those late seasons, the ones they phoned in. Martin is known for not pulling his punches. So where goes this story? Well, we have some hunches.
This could be one long Don Quixote-like story, where a foolish idealist ends up mangled and gory. Martin quickly established, with grisly beheadings, failed duels to the death, and unfortunate weddings, that a character's safety isn't archetype-based. This plot won't be formula-made copy-paste. Things might end quite poorly for Duncan the Tall. He's over his head with the game of it all.
But what better tale for the knightly ideal than one set in a world where the dangers are real?
A cynical land of realpolitik that's oftentimes gritty and bloody and bleak.
Take the deadliest world, no one's safe by design. What better a place for a knight errant to shine?
Unless we're lying. In all the old tales, it's wise to make friends. Helping out someone small always pays dividends.
A broken-winged bird, an innocent toad, that old vagabond by the side of the road.
Now we Puka have eons of knowledge to bring, but we're still pretty new to this whole YouTube thing.
So we've got a Patreon as of this week. If you want to support, click the link, take a peek.
We need your help. If you like the show's vibe and you want to see more, click that link and subscribe.
Prove you're a real mythology lover.
Vote on what topics you want us to cover.
Paid members get shoutouts in one of our shows. Please make that part harder as our channel grows.
At Kushiban, welcome and thanks for the ad. Your pledge keeps us going, so thank you, comrade.
If this was a video that you enjoyed,
And click on subscribe. Keep a Puka employed.
He's a puka.
A puka? Is that something new?
No, as I understand it, that's something very old.
You don't know about Puka? Why, that is insane.
Watch our first video where we explain.
Going.
Ah, hello. My name is Sir Fortunato, and today we're going to be talking about knighthood. Knighthood is a type of thing that other countries have because they're cooler. Our country doesn't have knighthood because we have a lame constitution that prohibits nobility. Isn't that shit? We could have cool knights. Now what we'll ever do if the dragons attack America? You're f***ed, aren't you? Utterly f***ed because you don't have knights. You lazy shit. Best you have is Colonel Sanders.